In June of 1984, I led a team of young people on a trip from the church to the countries of Panama and Venezuela. We invited people to, if they were interested, to sign up, and the great majority of them were really junior high age. And so I worked with the junior high pastor, and we set up some meetings. So we began to have team meetings for several weeks prior to the trip. There was a lawyer in the church, and he and his wife and two children asked if they could join the team. He was the high school teacher, so yes, they were part of it. And then we had another like 12 or so, 13 or 14 um, young people, mostly from junior high, but some from high school. And we had our monthly or weekly meetings for a while. So a couple of them in our home, and we learned some songs in Spanish. And I had a missionary who had been in the Spanish-speaking world come and address them. And so we were preparing as best we could and trying to build some team spirit as well. So we took off, and the main focus was Venezuela. So we spent the night in Miami and then went into Panama, though, for a couple of nights. And there were some missionaries there that we knew. And so we arranged for a special dinner and a couple of dinners, actually, on consecutive evenings, and some orientation to the Spanish speaking world, even though it was Panama and not Venezuela, where we were going to spend the majority of our time. But it was good for them to meet the missionaries and have some interaction there. And on the second night, we ate at this famous fish restaurant. And there was one of the young men who, there was like different rooms. It was a house that had been converted to this fish restaurant. So we were in like about three different rooms. So I came in from the room that I was in into the room where others were eating. And we were pretty much finished with the meal. And the one of the young guys, 14-year-old named Mike, he said to me, "What would you give me if I ate this fisheye?" And I said, "Well, that all depends. If you swallow it, not much. If you chew it and swallow it, I'll give you $10." So he popped the eye out and chewed it and swallowed it. And some of the kids were going, "Oh, okay. So you're not going to do that." I said, "Sure, I'm going to pay up. So good job, man." So I gave him his $10 for eating a fisheye. Don't know if he ever told his parents or not. But in any event, after 2 days, we went on to Venezuela and were hosted by some missionaries there in their home. And we all slept in different places, couches and in the basement, different places. And that's how we started our time there. And they introduced us to the country a little bit. And then off we went on our bus tour. Now, the first night we stayed in a home outside of the missionaries' home. We actually, there were several homes in this church where we were going to be ministering. The setup was that we had like three of the kids give their testimonies, and I would preach, and that's how we set it up. And so we got to our first place, and it was all split up, and we were on different homes, and we selected the three that were going to give their testimonies the next night, and then we all settled into the homes we were staying in. Now, the home I was staying in it was a humble home, but good, and then the people were great. And the our host and hostess gave us their bedroom to sleep in. When I say us, the they paired me with the bus driver, or you could say they paired the bus driver with me. And so he and I looked at each other and looked in the room and go, okay. So we chose our side of the bed, each of us, and I was on the left, he was on the right. We faced outward and had a good night's sleep. The following morning, we had breakfast, kind of a traditional thick corn tortilla type thing, and some coffee. And we were sitting around the table, and through an interpreter, I said, "You know, I, I apologize. My hair was just, I needed a haircut." And I said, "I just didn't have time to get a haircut. At least I didn't take the time to get a haircut before I came. So sorry about my appearance." And they kind of smiled, and he said, "I'm a barber." I said, "No kidding." So after we had breakfast, he got his stuff out and gave me a haircut. So that was kind of cool. I thought that was The way I am, I kind of took that as a sign that we were in the right place, and the trip was the right thing, and I sure did feel like God loved me and him, and he wouldn't take any money for it. It was kind of it was a gift, and I thought, how good of the Lord to put me in the one house where there was a barber as our host, and bunking down with the bus driver wasn't all that bad actually. So then we continued on, and after we ministered, we were in about our probably I don't know how many churches we were in altogether, like about maybe 7 or 8 churches, and we were in like the third or fourth one, and I turned to the lawyer and I said, look, he was like the Sunday school teacher for the high school kids. I said, Wendell, why don't we do this? Tonight, let me introduce the 3 kids that are giving their testimonies, and then you speak. And he said, okay. So the last 5 or so of our times, that's what we did. I introduced the kids that were testifying that night, and talked about our team and how glad we were there to be there, that kind of thing. And then he preached, he spoke. And I got to tell you that by the end of the trip, he seemed to be a different man. I thought, that thing, that call or that ability or that gift in his life had never been called out, I guess. And even though he was teaching, so he was a lawyer, he knew how to speak, but he was teaching spiritual things to the kids. And so he had a grasp for that and obviously had some experience and I think had the gifting. Anyway, it had never been called out in that way. And I got to say, he was good. He was good. I was really glad that we made that switch. Another thing that was really outstanding, and the last thing I'll say here, is that there were 3 teenage boys, 14 years of age, each of them, and three of them indicated they felt that God was calling them into ministry and perhaps the pastor. Truth is, 2 of them became pastors and are right now. The other got into business. I mean, he's still following the Lord and doing some service, in the church. So God really touched those 3 young men as well. And I don't know how he touched others during that time, but it was a remarkable time. And I often think about Panama and Venezuela, the eyeball, the barber, the bus driver, call of God in people's lives, and makes me happy.